Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
All right, people. Wednesday night. Thanks for tuning in. So, the Washington Post, which once declared after Donald Trump won in 2016 that democracy dies in darkness, which was just the dumbest mantra you could possibly imagine for what is supposed to be one of the top two newspapers in the country. Because obviously the implication is clear. Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist, and he's going to come in and squash all press freedoms, and therefore democracy dies in darkness, and we're here to shine a light on that fascism. It was painfully obvious what they were going for. Well, since then, they are not doing well. And despite the fact that they are owned by Jeff Bezos, who is the richest man in the world, or at least number two, goes back and forth with Elon Musk, the founder of Amazon, Bezos, of course, the guy who cheated on his wife and lost half his money, not half, but a big, big chunk. Yeah, NDA, dude, not too hard. A little, little premarital, what's that thing called? See, I didn't have to get one of these things because I believe in love. All right, prenup. Thank you, prenup. Should have gone prenup, Mr. Bezos, but he didn't. Before I go off on a tangent, look, Bezos is not the guy who should be running a newspaper. Clearly, he's a tech guy or he's an entrepreneur, but he did this because he wanted a toy. He wanted something that would give him relevance. All the money in the world is great, and you can do whatever you want, but it can't buy you power, and it can't buy you the aforementioned relevance. So I think that's what Bezos was going for. Matt Murray, who is the editor-in-chief of the publisher, basically, of the Washington Post, said in 2024 during a staff meeting, "We are losing large amounts of money. Your audience has halved in recent years. People are not reading your stuff." Whoops. Yeah, that's true. Now, here's the thing. The reason why maybe they're not reading their stuff is because the Washington Post purports to be objective, which drives me insane. Just own who you are. You are a mouthpiece, all right, an in-kind donation from the Democratic Party, and you're there to echo every talking point and every narrative that they want to push. And the reason why I know this is because it's the stat to end all stats. In the Washington Post history, they have never endorsed a Republican presidential candidate. Ever. Once. So that means they said, that Jimmy Carter, we like him over Ronald Reagan. Even better, we think Walter Mondale is the right direction for the country over Ronald Reagan, 1984. And boy, the Post got that one right. Actually, both when you think about it. Reagan won 44 states over Carter in 1980. He won 49 states out of 50 over Mondale. Mondale only barely winning his home state. Of course, ding, 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 Minnesota. They know how to pick him there, don't they? Mondale at least seemed like a decent guy. Goofy Tim Walz, Jacob Fry, Ilhan Omar. Great job, everybody, up there in Minnesota. Oh, and the Vikings, you suck. And you haven't been to a Super Bowl since you decided to, not play outdoors anymore. Smart move, taking away the one big advantage you had over NFC opponents, particularly those from warm weather cities. Again, another tangent. So the Post now will have massive layoffs that started today, and It's exactly what they said. No one's reading your stuff anymore because you can't trust this stuff. And even liberals, when you feed them the same red meat over and over again, kind of gets boring after a while when you talk about all this accountability, particularly when it comes to Donald Trump. It's coming. It's a-coming. He's going to jail. Oh, he won't be able to run again. Oh, his poll numbers suck. He won't recover. And every time, Trump defies that. And after a while, you begin to become numb to all the doom and gloom around Donald Trump when it doesn't happen. Here's what I do know. Insider advantage, right? A top pollster from 2024 in terms of getting it right when so many got it wrong. Donald Trump, approval, 50%. Despite every headwind in the world working against him as far as a hostile media, particularly when it comes to things that are going on in Minnesota, as if that is something that the rest of the country is saying, yeah, that's how we feel too. Not even close. Same poll. 67% want state and local officials to cooperate with ICE on deporting criminal illegals. 67%. Not very good at math, but I believe that's more than 2/3 of the country says that state and local officials should cooperate with ICE. You got that Zohran Mamdani, Michelle Wu up in Boston, Brandon Johnson in Chicago, Jacob Frey in Minneapolis. They want cooperation. If you have cooperation, you don't have the chaos like we see in Minneapolis. Just ask the leaders of Memphis and New Orleans and Washington, D.C., Democratic mayors who said, okay, we'll cooperate with you. And now crime has plummeted in those particular cities and in that particular district and across the country. It bears repeating every day on this show since the legacy news media won't do it. Murder rates are at their lowest rate in 125 years. Go all the way back to 1900 when Joe Biden was a sophomore. That's the last time we saw murder rates this low, and ICE has a lot to do with that, no question. Meanwhile, oh, man, it's still crazy out there, though. You could throw all these stats at people all you want, and it does not matter because here you have a protester. I won't even call agitator. I'm not using that term anymore. Agitator. Going up to an ICE agent and calling him a house N-word. Now, these guys take a lot of crap, right? Particularly in Minneapolis. They got to work in sub-zero temperatures. They're trying to, again, arrest murderers and rapists and child molesters and sex traffickers. And all they have are these weenies who apparently don't have jobs up in the face of these ICE agents saying the worst things in the world. And this one is a black ICE agent, so they call him a house N-word. And when he fires back rhetorically, then suddenly they get offended. I'm sorry. You can't just say whatever you want to these guys and not expect a little burn in return. And this one was an awesome one. This is cut number 1. Go.
Yes, families should be ripped apart. That kind of energy. Like we should rip people apart from their families.
Are you a man?
Are you a man? Yeah.
Wow, is that a question?
What?
Wow. Okay. How do you feel about ripping people from their families? Does that feel good?
House in here.
Yeah.
Sir, I need to move your house. Working for the KKK.
Why are you calling a woman a man?
So you could call him a house N-word, evoke the KKK, and when he asks a woman who kind of looked like a man, if you watch the video, are you a man? That was offensive to these freaks. Absolute freaks. Meanwhile, also in Minneapolis, the Don Lemon effect apparently is coming in because now everybody's screaming about the First Amendment right to impede law enforcement. In Don Lemon's case, to storm a church, get up in the face of the pastor who asked him to leave, get up in the face of parishioners, and talk about the First Amendment and how journalism allows you to do this when the FACE Act and the KKK Act do not allow that to happen. Now, everybody sounds like Don Lemon, at least among the freaks, the aforementioned freaks I talked about. This is cut number 2, where clearly you have ICE agents trying to execute an arrest on an illegal criminal in the country. And these guys are saying, but we have a First Amendment right to film this. Well, you don't in a staging area, you morons. Cut number 2, go.
A warning for what, sir? A warning for what?
Warning to quit following our vehicle.
Because?
Because we're conducting law enforcement operations.
Yes, and we're allowed to film you doing those law enforcement operations. We still have a First Amendment, sir.
Oh.
We are not impeding your operations. We're merely filming them.
Who was that, Rachel Maddow?
Operations do not continue to follow.
We're press.
We're press. We can follow you and film you.
You're not press.
Are you trying to get rid of the First Amendment?
Oh, again, it's all the lemonizing of idiots. That's what's happening now. We're press. You're not press. You're somebody with a friggin' phone filming ICE as they're about to go arrest somebody. And when you go into a staging area, I'm sorry, you can't just storm in there and be like, we have our First Amendment right. Oh, good Lord. Do you people have jobs? Seriously, I have 4. How do you feed yourself or turn on the heat in Minneapolis when this is what you do all day? Oh, that's right. Most of these people are women, it seems. And the wine moms have found a different thing, I guess, to replace wine liquid lunch with by following around ICE agents and filming them and saying they're the press. It's truly unbelievable. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Where liberalism is a no-go. The Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
The children of our nation know little to nothing about 9/11, but the Tunnel to Towers 9/11 Institute is righting this wrong by helping teachers educate kids in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their nonfiction first-person accounts are told through videos and the Discovering Heroes book series. The Institute offers full scripted curriculum units with background for teachers, a speakers bureau for classrooms, a mobile exhibit that's an interactive museum with 9/11 artifacts and FDNY guides. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, we got a big scam happening, potentially, allegedly, in not just California, but Minnesota. Oh, no, not that whole Somalian $10 billion fake autism centers and luring centers, L-E-A-R-I-N-G, luring centers. They couldn't even spell learning correctly. I mean, that really is just, the sign of the year. But now also the autism scam particularly appears to have expanded greatly in Minnesota, according to Dr. Oz, who is currently on President Trump's staff. He's been doing some investigating with his team, and here's what he is finding in Tim Walz's Minnesota. Cut number 3, go.
Minnesota expected to spend $3 million for autism. It's now $400 million. Why? Because everybody in the community signed their kids up as though they're autistic. Why? You're paying them. These moms literally took bribes to lie that their kids had autism.
I mean, this thing is completely out of control. And I was talking to somebody yesterday. A guy fixed one of my computers. Yeah, I have several. Sue me. All right, this one's like 10 years old, though. And see, I do a radio show. I do a TV show. I have a column for the Washington Examiner. I'm writing a book. I need, like, computers in certain places, and I don't want to have to bring one and unplug and plug. And all right, so anyway, I bought my old computer to this guy just to get a little bit of a tune-up. And he said to me, he goes, Joe, I watch you on TV all the time. He goes, it's getting frustrating, though, because where's the accountability? Like, what's going on in Minnesota is crazy. And what's going on with voting in Georgia is crazy. He's talking about 2020 and Tulsi Gabbard now leading an investigation into that. The place where the pipe burst in the middle of the night when they were counting votes when Trump was way up, and then they had to shut down the count of the votes. And then suddenly Joe Biden, like Seabiscuit, ran down the stretch to the finish and won that state by 11,000, a red state for a very long time. So, again, it's worth looking into. The point is that he asked me, he's like, nothing ever happens. We have these hearings, everybody yells at each other, and we hear that accountability is coming, and that never comes. And I just kind of looked at him, and I said, yeah, dude, I don't know what to tell you, because you're right. I mean, we keep hearing, going back to Hillary Clinton, if we just want to use like the most recent example, in 2016, where you literally had the FBI director and James Comey of Allendale, New Jersey. Congratulations, Allendale. And Comey says, that she was reckless and careless with highly classified information that she kept on a server in a bathroom somewhere in Colorado that undoubtedly the Chinese and the Russians were able to hack. And obviously then, therefore, that's a national security risk. And he said, while she did all these things, the quote of it, to end all quotes, no reasonable prosecutor would pursue this case. Well, who the hell are you to decide that? You're there to investigate. You're not a prosecutor. You're not a lawyer. You're the FBI director, allegedly. And we see Comey ever since then with all the books anti-Trump, and he's on MSNBC, and he's doing all these speeches with Nicole Wallace. And it's like, okay, the mask is off. Clearly, this guy never was objective in doing his job. Duh. But ever since Hillary wasn't indicted for that, when even the FBI director said that absolutely everything she did was worth an indictment, then you say, all right, I guess no one's ever going to get called out in this stuff. And Hunter Biden, he got that pardon, but nothing was going to happen to him anyway. And all the people that covered up for Joe Biden and all the people that ran that whole Russia collusion hoax against Trump, it's all BS. No one has gone to jail. The only people who've gone to jail is like Roger Stone, who was arrested in the middle of the night, or Manafort, or all these people connected to Trump. It's a joke. So when he says, where's the accountability? In the end, I don't know if anything's going to happen. And that's really the bothersome part about everything that's going on in Washington, no matter who's in power, just because of the way it works. So I guess you could get away with a lot of stuff, I suppose. But anyway, Dr. Oz, all right, this autism scam sounds pretty bad. Anything ever going to happen to Tim Walz, really? He says he's not going to run for office again, so he'll go away, and they'll say, all right, well, he's not a threat anymore in terms of power, so I guess we won't pursue anything. And he'll get away with it. And that's the joke about all of this. Meanwhile, the whole Don Lemon thing drives me absolutely bonkers. And Joy Behar, who's obviously a horrible human being, here she is comparing Don Lemon's journalism, scare quotes, to photographers going into concentration camps after World War II to film what happened there, as if there's remotely a comparison to Lemon storming a church and harassing parishioners and the pastor himself and leading this absolute agitator-led Antifa North storming of a church to post-World War II concentration camps and photographers going in there to document what happened. Don Lemon's that guy? Cut 4, go.
I was reading something the other day about World War II. When the Americans liberated Dachau after World War II, after the Holocaust, Dwight D. Eisenhower said, take pictures of these concentration camps, because years will go by and people will not believe this happened. So this administration does not really like somebody like Don Lemon, who has a camera, who has a position like we do in a way, to speak to the people and tell them what really is going on.
What really is going on where, Joy? In a friggin' church on a Sunday morning in Minnesota? Or any church? He's taking pictures of what? People praying peacefully? This person gets paid 7 figures by ABC. Oh, my hair hurts. I am dumber for having heard that. Like, you could take an IQ test before and after this show, and I swear I'm below room temperature at this point. This ain't good. Sonny Hostin, no better, echoes kind of the same thing after the fact about Don Lemon storming a church, how that actually is journalism. Cut number 5, go.
I think people need to remember that journalists embed themselves in protests, embed themselves with the government, embed themselves in campaigns, embed themselves in police activity all the time. That is the practice of journalism. So the fact that he was at a protest embedded in it is perfectly normal. It is not a crime to be a journalist.
It is a crime to storm a church, you moron. And by the way, why don't we do this? Why don't we take, 20 folks, put them in MAGA hats, and then have them storm into a mosque during one of their services. And then I'll have, give me Benny Johnson, give me James O'Keefe with a camera, and they can say they're journalists and get up in the face of the guy running the service at the mosque, the imam. And ask him all a bunch of questions, almost like it's an interrogation. Let's see how Sonny and Joy respond to that. Anyway, we're going to talk to Christian Toto next. Who is that? He is an award-winning film critic, and we're going to talk about the Grammys. He also covers music, and why more action films aren't chosen for Best Picture. So anyway, such a great conversation coming up. You're not going to want to miss it. This is Joe Concha. Please do stick around.
It's It's the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
All right, everybody, let's bring in Christian Toto. He is, I think, the Roger Ebert of his day, except he doesn't sweat as much. At last I heard, Christian, that's not the case. Ebert always looked like he was sweating. Like he wore those warm sweaters in a hot studio. You know, those lights, they ain't easy. So I don't know why I'm going off on Roger Ebert, who obviously, look, I'm sure we all read Mr. Ebert growing up, and I take everything back that I just said. But anyway, HollywoodInToto.com. He is the founder he's an award-winning film critic and podcaster. Go on to YouTube, that's youtube.com, at Hollywood in Toto, that's Toto. Where'd the name come from, by the way? Is that kind of a play on The Wizard of Oz?
Well, it's my name, so I got to use it somehow.
That's your real name, so you are Toto. Okay.
Oh, my. How would I make up such a silly name? And by the way, the only fan letter I ever wrote when I was a kid was to Gene Siskel, Roger Ebert's tag team partner, and he never wrote me back, so I'm still a little burned about that.
Dude, that's screwed up. Didn't Ringo Starr write back every single fan that wrote him? Like that was like his claim to fame. I don't know. I read that somewhere.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Seriously, peace and love. Thank you. Now the reason why I ask is because at Fox we got a gal on our weather team named Amy Freeze. I'm like, so what's really your real name, Amy? She goes, you know how often I get that? She goes, that's actually my name. My last name's Freeze. I'm like, you have to go into weather. And then growing up here in New York, we had a guy named Storm Field. Like that was his name. I'm like, wait, you work in weather on Channel 4 and your name is Storm Field? That was a legal name. So I guess some names you have to get into certain kinds of professions, no question. Anyway, I want to talk to you about, obviously, everything that's going on in Hollywood and get your take on Billie Eilish, okay, who's at the Grammys. And I know that you're more of a movie guy than a music guy. But at the same time, to say that no one is illegal on stolen land when she literally lives in a $14 million mansion, which now there's reporting coming out that, that may be on tribal Indian land originally. So I guess she's going to give that back, right? I mean, just the 14 mil, throw it away and put your money where your mouth is, Christian.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't a virtue signal. She really meant it. So she'll be moving out soon. You'll be seeing some U-Hauls outside. By the way, what I love about this story is that it proves that it's not 2020 anymore, thank goodness, because if this was 6 years ago, you would have everyone would be genuflecting toward her. She's so brave. She's so stunning. And yet even sites like Newsweek and Parade Magazine and some others have been saying, hey, wait a minute. That's the land you're living on is stolen too. So I feel like the world is healing just a little bit.
A little bit, yes. And this did get a lot of backlash to the point where you had folks, even on the left, or not even on the left, just common sense people coming on and saying, you know what, this was not a good idea. Again, I can never understand if you go to something like an award show like this, and look, it was one of the lowest rated Grammys ever, but still something like 11 million people tuned in. And it's not so much about the rating anymore, I'm learning, as far as the live audience, but the clips that go viral afterwards. And certainly this was, again, it wasn't about the music. It wasn't about the creators. This was the thing that everybody was talking about the next day, and it ain't a good thing. Here's Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, on Fox News, where I may or may not work. Yeah, I work there, of course. Cut 13, where he has some advice for Billie Eilish, and we'll get your reaction on the other side, Christian. Cut 13, go.
Well, I know her agents are going out of their minds. I mean, it's the first lesson 101 for celebrity. As you rise up, whether you're a film star, music star, whatever, shut your mouth and just entertain.
That's the great John Roberts, of course. That's the thing. When a guy named Mr. Wonderful is being that blunt with you, you got problems, Christian.
He's got a point, but I would say Google or shut up, because know your facts, know what you're talking about. If you're on a worldwide stage and you're mouthing off about this or that, at least have a semblance of what the whole conversation is about, the facts behind it. There's a chance you're going to win. Okay, you're Billie Eilish. You should have a speech prepared. You should have some thoughts arranged. But the bottom line is that no one ever fact checks celebrities. They say all these crazy things. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't do their homework, and then all of a sudden it's pushed out far and wide.
Absolutely, and we're talking to Christian Toto right now, and he is the award-winning film critic, and I want to talk about films right now. Let's get away from this for a moment, shall we? Sure. And that would be, as far as Best Picture nominees, okay? I am pleased to see that F1 was actually nominated here because I saw that with my son late June, summer night, and I walked out of that and said, hey, Brad Pitt should be nominated for something, like Best Actor. But I then my 10-year-old said to me, well, why wouldn't he? I said, well, because action films tend to get snubbed by the Academy, the people that choose this stuff, because they don't appreciate it and they think it has to be a serious topic, something that is a reflection on society and politics and something that's revolutionary. I don't know, right? It's kind of like Forrest Gump winning over Shawshank. And look, Forrest Gump was a great movie. Shawshank, I think, is an all-timer. It's my number one. I think the point I'm trying to make is that, and not like Shawshank was an action movie. I'll put it this way. Top Gun Maverick, I thought, was a great movie, and it wasn't nominated for Best Picture. F1 was. That made $631 million at the box office, and a ton more, obviously, as far as Apple subscriptions and all that fun stuff. But then after that, there are movies like Marty Supreme, Hamnet, Sentimental Value, The Secret Agent, which made $5.7 million. I haven't heard of these other movies outside of Sinners, so I just want to get your overall take on this. Can the Academy just finally wake up and say, all right, don't take yourself so seriously, and maybe nominate movies that people really, really liked, that just were good fun and just had a decent, simple story like F1?
No, they can't. And you point to the real problem there. It's sort of this artsy bias that's baked into the cake. It has to be a serious, sober, profound movie to get the Oscar consideration. The fact that F1 got a nomination for Best Picture is nice, but it's kind of like a token. It's like it's a participation trophy. There's no way it's going to win. But because we expanded the list to 10 movies, not 5 like it used to be, we'll give it a nod. But yeah, listen, I don't want Five Nights at Freddy's 2 to get nominated for an Oscar just because it made a lot of money. I mean, I get this sort of, there's a popular streak that you have to resist to a degree. Yeah. But, back in the day, the movies that were beloved that won Oscars they kind of had feet in both camps. They were great movies. They were dramatic. They were powerful, but they were populist. People liked them. They enjoyed them. So there's a real split that's been going on for years now, and you're not alone. You're a pretty media-savvy guy, and you haven't heard of half these movies. Most people haven't heard of half these movies, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I think Gladiator is probably the best example, right, of something where you could have both, right? You could have great entertainment, a great movie. You can say, well, it was too gory, but still, I mean, Russell Crowe deserved everything he got for that, and A Beautiful Mind after that, and I could go on and on. Christian, before we let you go, all right, this is going to be a 20-second answer. Your top 3 movies of all time. You say yours, I'll share mine, and we'll go from there.
Wow. Raising Arizona, Alien.
Alien, not the second one, because I always felt the second one.
I love them both, but the first one is so perfect. It's perfect. That's my short list.
Oh, that's a short list. Okay, I got Shawshank Redemption, the first Wall Street, and the aforementioned A Beautiful Mind, which I walked out and I almost was crying. And I'm like, all right, that had an effect on me. No question. And Crow to go from Gladiator, ripping people's throats out to the great portrayal of John Nash. I just thought, all right, this is one of the great actors of all time. And I actually got to interview him recently, and that was really cool. Anyway, Christian, we got to go, unfortunately, but thanks so much for joining us. I know it's early out there, and we will talk again on this show real soon, especially after the Oscars. We're going to have so much to talk about, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good. Thanks again.
Thanks, Christian. Take care. He's great, isn't he? And common sense guy, as you just heard. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. I am a common sense guy as well, as far as I'm told. This is the Joe Concha Show. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So, I got to talk about this because it really, really is in my craw. And that is the fact that we have the mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani, goes in front of a microphone this week and talks about how he went to the hospital and visited a man who was shot by a police officer, and he is there for this victim. Scare quotes around victim once again, because when I play this video, you're not going to be able to see it, but I'll describe it to you best I can before then. A police officer, NYPD, went into an apartment to arrest a guy, and this guy rushes the officer with a knife. And you'll hear the officer saying over and over again, put the knife down. And the guy keeps coming forward. What do you want the officer to do in this situation? And Mamdani, instead of applauding the police officer for doing his job correctly, visits the guy who charged the police officer with a knife, a deadly weapon, in the hospital, and then brags about it. This is your mayor in New York, ladies and gentlemen. Great job electing this clown. This is cut number 11. Go.
And as you said, I spoke with the Chakraborty family, and I visited Chavez in the hospital. And there is no family should have to endure this kind of pain.
Here's the video.
Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down!
Three times. Four.
Move! Put the knife down!
5 times.
Put the knife down!
6 times.
Put the knife down!
7 times. 7 times he tells this guy to put the knife down. Then the police officer puts himself behind a door because the guy keeps coming forward, so he can give him a little more time to put the knife down. Doesn't put the knife down, gets shot, and then Mamdani visits the guy who wouldn't put the knife down in the hospital. Impeach! I'm serious. This is ridiculous. How does anybody support this? You morons listening in Brooklyn with your latte and your college degrees that are getting you nowhere because you're drinking latte in a Starbucks right now and not working. You tell me how this is better for New York. I thought de Blasio sucked. He's got nothing, de Blasio, on Mamdani already, and we're not even 35 days in. 16 people have frozen to death in Manhattan in the 21st century. Because this guy will gather up the homeless and put them in somewhere where they actually have some heat. He talks about, it's their dignity. It's this collectivism that we're going to govern by. 16 people die of hypothermia in 2026? That's criminal. This is almost as bad as Cuomo with the nursing homes. And this is not fake anger, by the way, because if you listen to me, I don't yell very often. And I'm not even a New Yorker. I lived there for a while. When I worked there, I still work there. Got the hell out, meet a girl, knock her up. Hey, post-marriage, probably shouldn't use that term. She was with child. We were able to consummate the relationship in a way that produced a lovely daughter and a son. Is that better? Okay. Anyway, I live in the suburbs now. It's what we do. You get married, you buy a house. I don't have a picket fence. I got more of like a green wired kind of fence, but it keeps the dogs in. Anyway, going off on a tangent. The point is that I just can't believe that this is the same city that when I lived in New York, it was under Rudy Giuliani and Michael Bloomberg, and it was safe. It was run effectively. It was budgeted well. Now this clown, $30 minimum wage, ain't going to happen. Free busing, ain't going to happen. Free subways, ain't going to happen. Grocery stores run by the government, if it does happen, it's going to be a disaster. Free childcare, $10 billion. And the governor, who's a hard left Democrat, says, yeah, I'm not going to raise taxes statewide anymore to pay for this stuff. Oh, boy, Zohran, you are way, 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 way in over your head. No question about it. Meanwhile, the New York Times has a headline that says, crime rate is plummeting. We have no idea why. I swear that is the friggin' headline from the paper of record. And my friend Charlie Hurd over at Fox News, he had some thoughts about this. This is cut number 12. Go.
I love the New York Times is sitting back trying to figure this all out, and they can't figure out why it's happened. What's behind the staggering drop in the murder rate? No one knows for sure. Actually, I think there are a lot of people who have a really good idea. It turns out if you start enforcing laws and you start not allowing criminals to get away with stuff, you wind up with a lower crime rates. But the biggest thing, of course, here that's going on is the previous administration, you had millions of illegals coming across the border. We had no idea who those people are. Turns out, if you actually go after criminal aliens and you deport them and you start enforcing the law, the crime rate starts to go down dramatically.
A little sarcasm there from my friend Charlie. Anyway, yeah, the fact that the New York Times is saying that they don't know why crime is plummeting at this point. That's not even that they're dumb. They are trying to put out this narrative that is just happening just because of karma, I guess, or the gods decided that, maybe the world should be a safer place. Who the hell knows? But Greek mythology has nothing to do with this. That is certainly for sure. Meanwhile, President Trump had another run-in with Caitlin Collins, who, this is accurate, by the way. If you watch Caitlin, and that's basically Friends and Relatives at this point, who has a show for whatever reason at 9 p.m. in primetime on CNN, where, again, she can't even draw 500,000 people in primetime on a network that is in more than 90 million homes. 500,000 people watching. If you just want a perspective on that, that means 10,000 people on average per U.S. state. You know how hard that is to do? And when I say on Fox that repeats, we're talking old ones because I watched SpongeBob with my kid. He's finally outgrown it, thank God. SpongeBob SquarePants repeats on Nick Jr. beats CNN and Caitlin Collins at 9 o'clock. INSP, which plays Gunsmoke reruns. Gunsmoke, I believe, is a show from, the 50s, the 60s? Wasn't around for it. Good show. Actually watched it a couple times. It's classic. It's, nice little escapism. But the point is that breaking news in this environment, especially under a Trump administration and a Democratic Party that's gone loco, you would think that would draw some people watching your network that purports to report on this stuff, and she can't even get 10,000 people per state and is losing to Gunsmoke reruns. Anyway, here is Trump giving Caitlin Collins of CNN just a little advice. This is cut number 10. Go.
What would you say to the survivors who feel they haven't gotten justice? You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. She's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face. I'm asking you about survivors. You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth, and you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you.
Yeah, smile once in a while. And she's asking about survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, boy. Caitlin, where were you during the AutoPen years? I never heard you question Joe Biden once on why he wouldn't release any of those files. And Trump just puts out millions more of those files where, again, everybody just wants to find Trump being implicated for something related to pedophilia, right? And what Epstein, that monster, was engaged in. All I know is that Epstein was thrown out of Mar-a-Lago the minute that Trump found out what he was doing. And after all these years, we still can't find one thing that implicates Trump doing anything wrong outside of going to some Epstein parties, which basically everybody who was a celebrity and or had money did. And maybe look at Bill Gates and Bill Clinton a little bit more, the other Bills, before you start trying to trap Donald Trump in some sort of question while he's in the Oval Office, when all these other things are going on in the world. And this perpetually frowning Caitlin Collins is asking about Epstein survivors or whatever that performance art was. Anyway, let's go to one more clip here, shall we? Because I just love these ICE officers in Minnesota. Because, again, they take so much crap from these wine moms, from these protesters. Half of them are paid. They're there just to agitate. It has nothing to do with, well, I guess the only thing it has to do with is protecting those who are in the country illegally and who have committed crimes. We should let them stay here and continue to wreak havoc on cities like Minneapolis. Anyway, here is an ICE officer in the freezing cold, again, getting verbally attacked by one of these idiots. And then here's his advice for said idiot. This is cut number 9. Go.
I'm letting you know right now, ma'am, if you get any closer, I want to arrest you too.
You.
All right? So I'm telling you, don't get any closer.
I am allowed to film.
You can film, but don't get close.
You.
Okay? That's not nice. That's not nice.
Are you me?
That's not nice. Come on. You can hear me good.
You be a human being. Are you swear to God?
Fine, go get a job. Go home.
I'm on my way to work.
Hey, I was on my way to work. Instead of stopping off at, Dunkin' for some coffee, I decided to find an ICE officer who's in a building when that was being filmed, about to conduct and execute a warrant for somebody's arrest. She follows him into the building. He's telling her to get back. And then she's like, I have every right to film here. I have the First Amendment. And then when she says F you to him over and over again, and all he says is, that's not nice. And she's like, are you kidding me? You said something back to me like, that's not nice. And then when she tells her to get a job, she's like, I'm on my way to my job. What job? Are you the toll collector in an exact change lane? Like, what do you do exactly for work, ma'am? Anyway, this is Joe Concha. And this has been the Joe Concha Show. And we're going to have so much more fun tomorrow night on Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern in New York on WABC and on stations around the country. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until then, I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.